movie, The Horror. The House of Amity, this house, was built in 2001 by a zillionaire, American zillionaire, who moved from New England down to Palm Beach, Florida, but then sadly he promptly went bankrupt. While he was still Richie Rich, before he went bankrupt, he did build this astounding house. It is tens of thousands of square feet. It has 22 bathrooms. Think about that. 22 people can go all at the same time. Although watch out if they all flush at the same time. Kaboom! This zillionaire guy built this incredibly gaudy, gigantic mansion in Palm Beach, Florida in 2001. By 2004, it had been seized by the bankruptcy court, and he and his wife were on their way to facing tax evasion charges. But this house was put up on auction in conjunction with the bankruptcy in 2004. The person who bought the house on auction is now President Donald Trump. He bought it for $40 million. And then that big house in Palm Beach, it sat empty for 2 years. And it became sort of this local legend in Palm Beach real estate because the house was thought of as, locally, it was thought of as kind of a monstrosity. It was frequently described as gauche, as rococo. It had like fake art everywhere, you know, art inspired by real painters. Just sort of copies of stuff painted on the walls. Parts of the interior of the house were cobblestone, which nobody could quite explain. It also reportedly had a terrible mold problem. But Donald Trump bought it for $40 million in 2006. It sat empty for 2 years. And then in 2008, along comes Dmitry Rybolovlev, the king of fertilizer, right? Going through the mother of all divorces, needing the biggest ticket items you could possibly imagine as ways to shelter his money from his darn wife. The bigger the price tag, the better. I'm buying Greek islands. I'm buying the most expensive apartments in New York City. I need places to put my money. And Dmitry Rybolovlev turns around in 2008 and pays Donald Trump $100 million for that house. 2.5 times what Trump had bought it for 2 years earlier. Why did this guy spend $100 million on that property? I don't know. We do know that he never moved in. In fact, some reporting on the sale indicates that he never once set foot in it. And it's now being torn down. Trump and Rybolovlev have commented publicly that they never dealt with each other directly throughout the whole period of that sale. They never met. They only worked through intermediaries, which is interesting for a financial transaction that big, right? That was the single highest price paid for a single American house at the time of that transaction. That record actually may still hold. That may be the single most expensive house transaction ever in the United States. And they never met. They only went through intermediaries? Who were the intermediaries? Well, the king of fertilizer, Dmitry Rybolovlev, who basically popped $60 million neatly into Donald Trump's pocket in this transaction. He doesn't have much of an American profile, but he does have one very important American connection. Remember I said that he's one of the major shareholders in that Bank of Cyprus? The chairman of that bank, as I said, is the former chairman of Deutsche Bank, which just paid a $630 million fine for laundering illegal Russian money. He was installed as chairman of the Bank of Cyprus by the two vice chairmen of that bank. One of the vice chairmen of that bank is, as I mentioned, Vladimir Putin's close associate. But the other vice chairman of that bank is an American. The American is, in fact, the single largest shareholder in that bank. That bank that includes the guy whose firm was just done for the Russian money laundering and Vladimir Putin's very close associate. I should tell you, the vice chairman who that guy replaced was not only also a close Vladimir Putin associate, he was a guy who Putin was in the KGB with before he became Vladimir Putin. This bank is also owned in part by the Russian king of fertilizer, who did this inexplicable deal that Donald Trump miraculously stumbled into, that netted him $60 million for doing basically nothing. There is one American who is in the middle of that bank, who is the single largest shareholder in that bank. There's one American in that bank. And tonight, that American was just confirmed as our nation's new Secretary of Commerce. His name is Wilbur Ross. He's an American businessman, longtime friend of Donald Trump. Not much experience in international banking, but inexplicably ended up the majority shareholder in a Cypriot bank with all sorts of ties to Vladimir Putin and to a Russian oligarch who somehow, through some intermediary, we don't know who, ended up stuffing $60 million into Donald Trump's wallet, paying him $100 million for something that Trump had just bought for $40 million, and that the oligarch apparently had no personal interest in whatsoever. He never even bothered living in it and maybe never even visited. But Trump and that oligarch, no questions asked. They never met. No connection whatsoever, except through Wilbur Ross, Donald Trump's old friend, who will be sworn into the cabinet tomorrow as Commerce Secretary. And there's basically two things to know about this story going forward. One, in terms of explaining this presidency, the other one in terms of what happens next in our politics. In terms of explaining this presidency, you should know that at the time this magical deal emerged out of nowhere that put tens of millions of dollars in Donald Trump's pocket, at that time, Donald Trump was financially having a very difficult time. It is a matter of public record that he was fighting very hard, among other things, to avoid paying off a big loan that he had with Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank needs the money, that means Trump needs the money, that means Trump needs to get the money, so this mysterious windfall infusion of cash from the Russian guy came at just the right time for now President Trump. Every investigative reporter in the country right now is trying to figure out whether there is some reason that our new president appears to feel so beholden to Russia and to Vladimir Putin. Well, this part here, this is not just like a loose thread, this is like a rope ladder hanging down from the ceiling, begging people to crawl up this and look around. So that's one thing to know about this story. The other thing to know about this story has to do with what's going to happen next.